Hey guys, for this Tuesday tip bit, I thought we'd do something a little bit different and talk about guitar setup. I'm going to talk about primarily my Strat here, or Strat-style guitars that I've got, how I set them up, and really what I'm talking about here is tuning stability and playability. That's pretty much what people are talking about when they're talking about the setups. Pickup height and all that sort of stuff I won't kind of go into, but I'm really going to talk about kind of strings, action, tuning. String gauge wise, I like to use 10s. On Strat styles, or 25.5 inch, definitely on a Les Paul, probably even higher gauge, maybe even 10.5. I used to use 9s on my Floyd guitars when I had gems, but then when I started playing like the Sir guitars, I put 10s in them. I preferred to feel the 10s, and now I feel 9s are kind of too floppy for me. I can't control them. When you're stringing up the guitar, there's various things you can do at the tuning peg end here. I won't go into too much detail, but you don't really want to be tying knots. I mean, you'll see some things online about looping this and doing all of that. It depends on your setup here with your tuning pegs. On this kind of vintage style Strat, you just put the string in and literally just wind it round. So the compression of the string winding from the bottom up in the post will catch the string. So sometimes if you've got like a standard post that goes through the middle, a hole in the middle, you want the wind above and then the rest of the windings pushing against it, so it clamps it. And that keeps it nice and secure, basically. Once you're strung up, you want to stretch the strings. And when you stretch the strings, don't just grab it and pull from here. The way I like to do it is I'll put my first finger here, or the first fret, and I'll pull the whole length of the string all the way up and back down. So you're trying to stretch the metal all the way along its length. If you just pull here, you're really going to stretch it at that particular point that you're pulling from. So you want to kind of have it all the way along, and that gets the strings settled a lot quicker. When it comes to the stability of tuning, it all depends on your guitar and all the points of contact with the string. Now, obviously, I've got classic trem on this, and I set my trems up floating. You can see there. Some people, Stevie Vaughan thing, they might actually deck that trem and have it clamped right down, which does help a little bit with tuning stability, because obviously you're not going to be moving the strings too much. You're not going to be slackening the strings, for example. But if you think about it, your string's going to come through the back, comes through here, goes over the saddle, goes through the nut, and then depending on your guitar, you might have string trees here. Obviously a Floyd guitar with a locking nut's a different thing, and I'll maybe do a video on that. So that's your points of contact. And what I do is I use a nut sauce, Euro nut sauce. I've had this for so long. And I do a little bit of loop at the point where the string kind of contact. Now I've got a Callahan bridge here, so the saddles in here are slightly longer, so that break angle of the string coming over is a little bit shallower, which helps with tuning stability. If your saddle's a little bit shorter, that string is going to come up and break at a kind of greater angle. So there could be a tendency for it to kind of move there. But if you've got a nice bit of loop there, particularly in the nut, and then under the saddle here as well, where the string's going to move, it'll glide a bit easier. If you ever hear any pings or any noises like that when you're tuning up, you've got an issue with the nut. You've got the string catching somewhere there. Things will expand and contract with temperature. But if you ever have like a string sticking there, or when you use the trem and you hear it go or ping up here, then you need to get your nut kind of looked at. You can do that yourself, or I'd prefer to get someone else to look at it. But the nut is quite an important bit when it comes to tuning stability in the guitar. And more often than not, when you've got a Strat or a style guitar like that keeps going out of tune, it's probably the nut that's causing you kind of problem. The action playability, when you're looking at the truss rod, people will talk about capos here and thinging this and doing this. The way I like to do it is I just literally press down at the last fret, maybe the first fret, and just eyeball it. Obviously I've been in this for so long now, I get a good idea when I know that the neck's kind of moved a little bit. And depending on your guitar, when it's winter, summer, whatever, where you are in the world, it can vary quite a bit. But I tend to just eyeball it. Back in the day, it used to be stick like a pick or something under like the 8th fret. But you could use something like, if you want to like go measurement wise, you could get some feeler gauges, And that relief, again, is depending what style of player you are. If you hit the guitar pretty hard, do a lot of string bending, you might want a little bit of relief in there, so your string isn't going to buzz. When you know your truss rod is too tight, you'll find that there's buzzing kind of down here, assuming your nut's okay and it's not cut too low. But you'll find if you're playing chords or notes down here, it'll buzz. So the neck's obviously pulled back too much, so your strings are hitting the fret up here. So you need to put a little bit of relief in the neck to slacken it off. If you find that it's buzzing up here when you're doing string bends or whatever, then it's to do with the bridge height. Now in this guitar, I've got steel frets, so they're nice and smooth, but I want a big bend up here. So I set the individual height of the saddles, because obviously it's a Strat style, to be able to do that. So I'll play a bend. If I hear it, that's buzzing a little bit. But if I hear it buzzing or whatever, I'll just make a micro adjustment here just to bring it up a little bit. Generally, I might start with kind of ballpark height here above the last fret. Now, tool-wise, you can just use like a ruler. If you prefer working in millimeters, as I do, you can just kind of measure it. I tend to do like a 2 mil above the last fret there, or the 21st fret. Depends if it's 22, 21 fret guitar. But I'll go for kind of 2 mils there. You can also get like a tool like that from StewMac, so it's a little bit more along the way. Plus, it'll do it in inches if you want to kind of do it in inches. But I'll set about that general vibe, and then I'll adjust the saddles individually. Obviously, you've got the radius of your fingerboard as well. You want to accommodate for the radius. So basically, you've got nice free bending all the way up the kind of neck. Yeah, an action is it's a very personal thing. As I said, that's the way I kind of set them up. Maybe on like the gems and things back in the day, because it was a flatter radius, I might have had it a little bit lower. But with lower action, people tend to feel like the guitar plays easier, but you can't get under the string, I feel, for doing kind of various things. So that's just some general tips about restringing, where to look for on the guitar if you've got kind of issues with regards to string buzz. Hopefully, it will help with the playability and the tuning stability of your guitar. And this guitar, yes, I can go pretty crazy with this. And it'll stay in tune just about. There are certain limits. When the strings are warmed up and you've been playing for a while, it pretty much kind of stays in tune. So I hope you enjoyed that, guys. Just a little bit of kind of tech setup, Tuesday tidbit. Let me know if you've got any questions below, or if you want to see any other kind of setup stuff. Yeah. So thanks for watching, guys. See you soon.